Hi, I'm Rhonda from Beck's Bakery. Today we're going to make 100% whole rye sourdough with flax seeds. What we're going to do is we're using the local rye. This was grown in southern Humboldt by Eel Valley Farms, and it's a variety called Gazelle. It has such wonderful flavor and aromas, and yeah, so let's get started. The components that I prepared ahead of time. We're gonna, like I said, it's got flax seeds, so we have a flaxseed soaker, which is just flax seeds and water. Then we have a rye soaker. This right here is just rye flour and water. We also have our starter, or our levain. This is a rye, 100% whole grain rye levain, and I made this one last night, so it's been sitting for at least 14 hours. And then I also have just my flour and my salt in here. So let's get started. I decided that I'm going to do this by hand, so that if you don't have a mixer at home, you can certainly use a mixer, but I just want people to know how to do this without having a mixer. So I'm going to use a oiled Cambro. You can get these at kitchen supply stores. You don't have to have a Cambro, you can use whatever you want. What I'm going to do is put together these components. So the rye soaker, like I said, this is just rye and water. So 118 grams of rye flour and 118 grams of water. And then this soaked overnight. And the reason that we're using a soaker is it helps to hydrate the flour, and then it also creates some enzymatic activity overnight. And the reason why we want enzymatic activity, not all enzymatic activities, but this particular one will usually bring out more flavors and a better texture for our product. So I'm going to put in the soaker. Next, I'm going to put in the rye starter, or the levain. This was 353 grams of rye flour, 313 grams of water, and 7 grams of rye starter. And so you can see that there's bubbles on there. I put the tape kind of about where it started at the top of this tape, so it did lift up. I didn't push it in very well, so it's not a very accurate indication of like how much it moved. But anyway, you can just see that it's airy. It smells pungent. It's been going at 72 degrees for about, probably 16 hours. It's probably a little older, but it's gonna be fine for this. And now it smells very good. Alrighty, and then lastly, almost last, I have the flaxseed soaker, a combo of flax seeds and honey with the water. So 150 grams of water, 78 grams of flax seeds, and 26 grams of honey. Next, I'm just gonna go ahead and add the flour and the salt. We're putting everything together. This isn't like a wheat bread where you'd want to hold your salt back. With rye, with rye breads that are going to be baked in a pan, we're throwing it all in. 16 grams of salt. And then lastly, our whole rye flour. That's 313 grams. Pop that in there. Use our hands to mix this up, and I also have a little bit more water to add to the recipe. So I'm adding 109 grams of water. I'm going to use warm water because rye loves to be warm. The rye dough loves warm. I don't want to add boiling water in here because it'll kill the starter. I'm just taking a temp of what I've got going on in here. Okay, this is too hot. It's 158 degrees, so I'm going to dilute it with some plain water. Just straight water in here, and I'm going to add the hot water to it. I'm hoping to get it to about 90 degrees. It's 100 degrees, which is probably the top end of the water temp that I want to add to this. So let's weigh out the 101. Actually, I'm going to start with this to work it in, get it going. So I'm going to be adding that water because it is so dry. Oh yeah, that's much better way to handle this. And now that I have my hands in it, I can see that it is stiff, but it's not as dry as I thought it was. This would be a fun one for kids to be in. If you're gonna use a mixer, use a paddle attachment, like the one you do for creaming butter and sugar together, making cookies. That's what you wanna use with this. Now I'm just gonna kind of organize it a bit in the pan or in the Cambro here. Stuff off the walls of it. Make sure I got everything off the bottom, but it's still holding together, you know. You don't want it to be glopping off. That means you added too much water. But you also want it to be pliable. You don't want it to be a stiff brick there. So this, I'm calling this dough done. All right, so our dough is ready to go into the proofing. Another Cambro, I oiled it really well. Keep your hands wet. That's gonna make your life easier when dealing with this stuff. So I'm trying to just even it out, get it flattened and evened out as best I can. I'm just gonna mark where the start line is and the time. So what I'm looking for is the dough to be starting to rise, and that will help me know that it's coming up. Proofer, which is set at about 74 degrees, and we're gonna let it be in there for about an hour. We'll check on it in an hour. All right, it's been about an hour and 10 minutes since we put this in the proofer, and you can see that we've had some lift. So do water, it's a great way. So I'm putting water on my table, the lid that I'm putting on top of my scale just to protect the scale, getting that wet too. And then I'm gonna just take out 600-gram pieces of dough. So then, again, I wetted the tabletop. Now I'm gonna do just kind of a little bit of a shaping technique here. Fold it in thirds, fold this in thirds too. And then I'm gonna just kind of make it into a square, a cube, as best I can. And I'm gonna put it in my my pan here. We have our little squarish, cubish thing here. I'm gonna slide that in. We'll go and do the next one now. Right, this one's gonna be about 100 grams short. Okay. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna push all of these in to the pans to fill in the corners. So that's that one there. We're now ready to go into the proofer for another round. This is gonna be our final proof. It'll go in there for about an hour. And we have to keep an eye on it because we can easily overproof rye breads. Alrighty, so I just pulled these out of the proofer and they are just exactly where they need to be, about 1 knuckle from the top. They were in the proofer for about an hour, 10 minutes. So any more than that, I would just say we just gotta get it in the oven. This is white rye flour, so I'm gonna sprinkle that on top. It's got some water here, so I'm gonna dip my my scraper in the water, and I'm going to do a cross hatch. I'm going in at a pretty good amount, about 1 inch deep. So it looks like that. I'm using just a plastic cup, and I'm gonna do this on the short one, but you can just make rings on it too. Those look kind of fun. And the third thing I'll show you is docking it, and we're going to use a chopstick. So dipping the chopstick in the water, so it's all docked. I'm putting it in a 400-degree oven. So we're going to let that bake for about 30 minutes, and I'll check on it. All right, so it's been about 40 minutes. I'm going to check the bread right now and see if it's ready. This one was finished a little bit ago because it's smaller, less dough. It falls right out. That's a good sign. All right, 202. This one's done. So these are ready. They're nice and warm, and you might be tempted to cut into them right now, but I wouldn't do that because your knife will get all gummed up and you'll also gum up the interior, the crumb of the loaf. What I usually do is I let them cool overnight at a minimum. 24 hours would be ideal, but you may not be able to wait that long. But anyway, this bread's going to get better the longer it sits, and actually like 2 days out it'll have even a better flavor. So hold off if you can, and wait a little bit before you eat it. But I hope you enjoy this recipe.